marching on the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking, with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. I say, run, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Advocacy. What is advocacy? What does it mean to advocate for an individual, perhaps, against the group, or to advocate for the group, the flock, the sheep, the herd against the wolf? Today, we'll be talking to an advocate both outside of YouTube and in YouTube to see what he thinks about this, to what he thinks about the system within which he exists and consists, and perhaps the kinds of changes that he might advocate for the system. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ike Ogiamian. Welcome to my channel. And over here, we talk about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing. And what are we doing today? What are we doing today, Nicer and Dr. Thunder and Nazarene Beats? What are we doing today? Today, we're talking to, having a conversation with the one and only, the distinguished, the honorable, the venerable, the acclaimed, the celebrated, the lead attorney himself. How's it going, sir?
I am doing well. That is an intro. That is an intro right there. I am doing well. How you doing, Ike?
I'm doing very well, sir. How's your Thursday? How's your week been going? It's Thursday here, and you're over somewhere in the East Coast at 8:30. How's your Thursday evening going?
It's going pretty well. It's I'm in Atlanta, so yeah, we are. It's 8:30 over here, and I try to do these live streams too. And I said that I was going to try to do them. I was going to try to take off once or twice a week to start them like around 3:30 or 4, because once I start them so late, sometimes, you kind of get handcuffed and kidnapped, and they take you on to like 1 a.m. And I had that experience, I think, yesterday, where they wouldn't let me off. So, and after this one, I think around 10:30 or something, I'm gonna try to fire one up again. It's just been hard to take off, with work and other obligations. But I said I was going to try to do at least one live stream a week. Do you have a schedule for your live streams?
Yeah, roughly. Tentative schedule: Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Sometimes I go Wednesdays. I started a little show with Joan, my drummer, so we're doing that on Wednesdays. But generally speaking, I like to go Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you and Dr. Thunder are all in the music and all that. I see Dr. Thunder just killing it, and of course you with your singing skills. I always wanted to learn how to play the drums, but it just never came about.
No singing for you?
No. I'm not blessed that way. I think I could probably learn the drums, but at our age, it's if we want to get good at something, it just takes so much time, and it's such a commitment, and so you kind of have to weigh the costs and the benefits, right? And so I think that might have been one of the few things that I really wanted to learn that's going to pass me by.
I see.
You play any instruments?
I always so I'm a studio instrumentalist. I don't really play I have a keyboard and a guitar, right? But I can play them in the studio, and real musicians out there know what I mean. In other words, I'm not going to go out in front of a crowd and play the guitar, but in the studio, I can compose with it. I use it mainly for writing, so I can mess around and record it. In other words, I can make a whole bunch of mistakes and clean it up. That's kind of what I mean by playing it in the studio versus go live and improvising and stuff like that. I used to say that I play the keyboard, but when I started working with real musicians, I stopped saying that. You know how it goes.
Absolutely. You can run into some real people, and then that adjusts your reality of how you see yourself. That is absolutely true. Well, maybe one day I'll pick it up, but it doesn't look too promising. Learning this YouTube stuff is more than a task, and it's.
I think that you've picked it up quite quickly. I think we were talking behind the camera there for a couple of minutes. Well, first of all, it's all about you today, so it's a conversation, as the title suggests. So wherever you want to go with it, so on and so forth. I have some questions I want to ask, but don't look at it as an interview. You can ask me questions as well. You can do all that. The improvisational ethic, which is implied by conversation, you go ahead and, you feel free to take that on. But I think that this YouTube thing, you have definitely taken the bull by the horns, and everyone has their different approaches, but you have definitely, let me just go ahead and ask you this. Are you, in your soul, essentially, okay, are you a planner type, Or, and I know it tends to be both, right? What I'm about to ask, right? It's like that nature nurture question, right? Of course, it's both all the time. But essentially, are you a planner? And we can use your YouTube here as a focal point. Like, oh, I'm going to start YouTube. I'm going to make these kinds of videos. And in 3 months, I'm going to do this, and then maybe I pivot as I go along. Or are you essentially more of a, I'm going to just jump in, right? Shoot first, ask questions later, swashbuckling, devil may cry, that kind of a person. Which kind would you say essentially, what is primary to you?
Right. And I think that's a great question. And I totally understand where you're saying that a lot of times it's both. For me, it has never been both since I was 2 years old. I am absolutely a planner. I'm absolutely someone who can get stricken with the paralysis by analysis. I've done YouTube wrong in every single way you could do it. I was losing money. And I mentioned this on one of the live streams, and Jessica X, she was like, how in the heck could you lose money on YouTube? And I think that the way Jessica X does it is she just jumps right in. Whereas me, I've never been a perfectionist in my life about anything, but somehow this has turned in, this is the only thing really that I've kind of been a perfectionist about, which has been very disappointing when you look at the quality of my videos, right? Especially the ones at the beginning. And I spent so long on them. And it's interesting that you asked me this, because I think tomorrow I'm going to release a clip of a live stream that I think I did yesterday about why I am successful, or the question was, what do I attribute my success to? And I had a heartfelt answer, and it's a little embarrassing, to be honest. And I was actually thinking about it today. I was like, should I release that or not? But I think I'm going to release it. But I'll tell you that, and this is a good conversation for anyone who wants to start a YouTube channel, because that's really one of the things I want to have my channel to focus on. O'Shea Jackson did a huge solid for me. And he had me on when I had like 1,000 subscribers or 1,500 subscribers. And what he didn't know is that I was really considering quitting, because I was spending so much time and I was getting so little traction. And there's a guy in Atlanta, I don't want to say his name, but he would take his phone and he would put it in his lap, and he would drive around the interstate and talk. And he had like 2,000 subscribers, and I had 400 subscribers. And every day I would wake up and get, 2 subscribers more, and then 3 subscribers more. So you do the math and you say, man, if I get 2 subscribers a day, then that's 60 what is that? 60 a month. So what is that, like 700 a year? And I can work for a whole year and never even get close to this guy. And all he does is put his phone on his lap, and the angle is so bad that all you really see is the bottom of his hand, and you see up his nostrils. And he has 2,000. I'm sitting here putting all my heart and soul into these videos, and I was like, it's just not worth it. Trying to go to court and trying to do my own life, and then trying to do this as well. I started it for a particular reason, but I kind of got caught up in this quarantine thing, right? Because I think I started a little bit before you. I think I put my first video out maybe in March or April. I was ready to give up because I wasn't getting any traction, and I was spending 10, 20, 30 hours on one video, putting the video out. No one would watch it. And, trying to get monetized at that time was like, it's never going to happen. And seeing other people to me, it seemed like they just didn't care, right? If you just set your phone on your lap and you drive around in your car, to me, it seems like you don't care. But I've learned, to wrap that up, really, O'Shea, I got on his channel, and, I got maybe like 500 or 700. He's had me on multiple times. And each time I would get like 1,000 or 700 or something like that. And so that's when the momentum started to come. And then the second thing I attribute my success to is Kwame, if we could be honest.
The algorithm, if you will. Yeah.
Yes. And in this clip, I think you're gonna inspire me to go ahead and release it. But I was very frustrated. Yeah, if you look at my analytics, you'll see, my top 10 videos are, 8 of them are about Charlemagne the God, and then the last 2 are about Boyce Watkins. And I was spending 20 hours, 30 hours trying to tell guys about child support, trying to tell guys about alimony, trying to tell guys about parental alienation, trying to save guys. No one would watch those videos. No one will watch them. And I'll do one video on, and when I say no one watching, I'm talking about like 2,000 views, 3,000 views. I will do a Charlemagne the God video and it'll get 50,000 views, 100,000 views, 150,000 views. And you learn, like the algorithm teaches you, right? And it's like, listen, this is what we want. And what I say in that video is like, it's so frustrating because people will see my 6th Charlemagne the God. And don't take this wrong, after my 2nd or 3rd Charlemagne the God video, I really learned about Jessica Reed, and we had contact and we spoke on the phone. And so I really felt like I'm doing good supporting her and her message and her quest for justice. But in terms of talking about this man, this Charlemagne the God man, when I really want to be helping, my people, it's extremely frustrating. And so when I do all these Charlemagne the God videos and they get so much success, so many views, people watch the Charlemagne the God videos and then they turn around and they say, Lead Attorney, you're just clout chasing, right? But when I do the videos that I want to do, no one watches them.
Double-edged sword, right?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. And so it's extremely frustrating when you do something, you get success for it, then the people that made this success turn around and criticize you for it, and you didn't want to do the video in the first place. Like, how deep is that? How deep is that? And so, yes, this YouTube journey is really teaching me so much. But it's funny because it really boils down to what the market wants, and this, artists have been dealing with this forever. We got Andre 3000. He started here in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, part of half of Outkast. And he was saying this way back in the day that, it's hard to find a lot of rappers that are deeper, the lyrics that are deeper than Andre 3000. And what he would say is, I want to make all of these songs and teach you guys stuff, but all you want to do is dance to the booty shake music. So he's like, what I have to do is take my message and wrap it into the booty shake. So then when you're dancing, hopefully you'll be, what did he say? Right? He says, slide it in. But it's interesting because in the manosphere, what do you hear women say? Women are like, oh, I got my PhD, right? And what do guys say? Guys are like, we show us your nipples, right? They don't care, supposedly. And so I feel like the woman that's like, no, I've got this message, I've got this value that I want to give to you. And people are like, yeah, but what about Lizzo? What about T.I. and Tiny? And it hurts. I sympathize with the woman who has her PhD. And I know she gets beaten up over here in the manosphere. But a lot of YouTubers, you can find yourself in the same position where you want to impose what you think is important. You want to impose that onto the market, right? You want to say this PhD that I have has value. This 20 years of experience that I have, it has value. And the market is like, talk about Charlemagne the God or shut up. Or shut up. And then when you talk about Charlemagne the God, they say, you're clout chasing. they throw you under the bus, but they throw you under the bus after they've watched your video. After. I will have a guy, he'll say I'm clout chasing on every single one, all 8 of my Charlemagne the God videos that he's watched, right? And so it's such an interesting conversation to be a YouTuber. And it really, there are people who will not care. There are people who, and I admire these people. People who are like, listen, to me, YouTube is a business. I don't have a message, or if I do, I understand that my PhD that I have is not what's up on the market. And I'm going to give these men if I was a woman, like I'm going to give these men what they want. I got a PhD from Cornell, but guess what? I'm going to be feminine, right? I've got, I'm a scientist. I know all of this STEM stuff, but guess what? When you come home, I'm going to rub your back. I'm going to give you what you want. And there are absolutely people like that on YouTube, and they get extreme success. I think it's the newer people like me. If you talk to me in a year, you might see the lead attorney that's totally jaded, and all I'm doing is celebrity tea, right? But right now, my channel was just monetized in January. In fact, I think it was like January 26, 27, 28. So I've been on 5 months exactly, or 6 months exactly. And so I've still got this newness in me where I want to give guys a message. And when I do that, I just did a video. So a subscriber asked me to do a video. I did a video, and I thought it was a very good video. And in the comments, everybody's like, oh, lead attorney, such an interesting video. It's about destination weddings and whether men can escape all the laws and the BS from the divorce. And in the comments, read the comments. The comments are like, oh, lead attorney, this is such a great video. Lead attorney, this is such valuable information. No one watched the video. I think it's got like less than 2,000 views. I did a Boyce Watkins video. I did a Boyce Watkins live, took a clip from the live, a clip that I didn't even try to get monetized because all the bad stuff we were saying in it. And what does it have? 20,000 views in like a couple of days, which for my channel is big. It's certainly bigger than the 2,000, right? And so what I've kind of learned is there's this YouTuber. His name is Meet Kevin, and he's a white guy, and he has about a 1.5 million videos, 1.5 million subscribers. And what I did was a couple of months ago, I went and bought his course on how to do YouTube. And I think it cost like $500, and I got it some discount for like $350 or something. And what he says is the number one thing. Anybody who, I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. I need to find one. Anybody who's watching this and wants to start YouTube, I highly recommend this. And what he says was the number one thing when you go to select topics, he says to do a Trojan horse. What is a Trojan horse? He says, like the Trojan horse back in the day where they presented a gift to the kingdom and all these soldiers were inside, but the people in the kingdom didn't see the soldiers inside. They just saw this big horse. So they pulled the horse in. And once they got inside the walls, all the soldiers came out and vanquished the kingdom. That's what he says about YouTube. He's like, listen, lead attorney, if you want to talk to these men and give them a message, fine. If you want to tell them a truth, fine. If you want to talk to them about your experience, fine. What you have to do is take all of that, take your message, put it inside Boyce Watkins. Take your message, put it inside Charlemagne the God. So Andre 3000 was saying, hey, I got a message for you, but I got to lay the message over a booty shake beat. And that's the only way you're going to get to them. Because if you just show up outside the kingdom with no horse, they're not going to let you in. And Meet Kevin, of course, 1.5 million subscribers, makes millions of dollars on YouTube. This is a man that knows how it works.
100%.
Yeah, but it's a little bit frustrating for me. But that's what I've come to learn. I'm learning how to learning to mix my message into celebrity stuff. And I'm still hard-headed and I still fight it. A few days ago, I did this whole celebrity news thing. And just like a market will never fail to tell you where you are.
Think about this question while I read the super chats there. The question basically is, it is, however, a valuable skill. In other words, this Trojan horsing or the clickbaiting or being able to package things. Let's call it branding even. If you want to put a nice at the highest level, let's call it branding, right?
Yeah, I think we call it like clout chasing, but I think branding.
There you go. Exactly. You just got to brand it differently. But anyway, like, so it is a valuable skill, right? And I want to hear your thoughts on that. But shout out to K Coaching for the super chat. Thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Says Ike, the lead attorney. I'm learning something today. And also, we have, and I believe I have not seen this person on my channel before, so make sure that you go ahead and, or maybe let me not say that I've not seen you before, but if you've not been here before, go ahead and please click the subscribe button. The lead attorney, let's start tagging your vids with Red Pill and MGTOW. And okay, he's talking about that.
I do sometimes. I do tag. Not the people have gotten on me about the MGTOW, so I've taken that off. But I still do man. Every now and then I'll do Manosphere or Red Pill if it has something to do with relationships. I think that's a great idea.
Lost Patriot, thank you very much for the $10 super chat.
Yes,
so,
thank you, Lost Patriot.
You were talking about that particular skill, right? Because with every challenge, I suppose, right, you probably have that kind of a view, someone whom, you know, there's a certain kind of focus and work ethic that you just exude, right? You can kind of tell just by looking at you, how you do what you do on YouTube. So I'm sure that to have come this far, you have had to overcome challenges and do even these things that are you may consider silly, but you must have a positive attitude towards them at the end of the day. So one thing is, okay, it is definitely a benefit, right? Or it is a useful skill to learn. And then secondly is the whole psychological thing, which is that I'm sure there are many more positive comments, right, than the trolls. What do you have to say about that thing about us? Now, we tend to focus on the negative, and it is evolutionary beneficial. Like, you know, if you're like, oh, maybe that lion roar that I heard out, maybe it's not a lion, maybe it's just thunder. And, you know, those people didn't make it, right? So
Exactly right.
that's the shorthand, simple kind of thing. Plus, also, we know that the depths of hell are way, 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 way deeper than the heights of bliss, right? Like, in other words, like there's a way one philosopher puts it, like Arthur Schopenhauer, he has the pessimist kind of philosophy, and he talks about, well, just imagine a lion, okay? A lion that's really hungry, right? And then he finds this wildebeest, and now he's pounced on this wildebeest and is eating. So now he's enjoying that meal, right? Then imagine the wildebeest, okay, and what the wildebeest is going through. There is no amount of elation and happiness that lion is going through that can compare to the horror that the wildebeest is going through. So in other words, negative, right? Hell can be really, really deep. So it makes sense to try to spot it out. But so those two things I just put out there. Number one, you know, focusing on the negative things, which we should try not to do anyways. But, and in addition, it is a useful skill to be able to market and brand and package things in a certain way. As an attorney, is that not something that you have had to do or do have to do, you know, in your daily practice?
That is an interesting question. I've never thought about it like that. First, I've never heard the depths of hell and the heights of heaven. I think that's exactly right. One of the things that benefits me in this sphere of YouTube, some of the skills that I have being an attorney do translate over. And one of the skills is developing a thick skin, especially a thick skin for conflict. People tell me, people have told me all my career, attorneys, we fight each other. We really do. You mentioned advocacy, maybe trying to tie that back in a little bit. And advocacy is based on a floor or a ground of
the adversarial system, right?
That is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. You read my mind. That's exactly right. It is based on the adversarial system. And an adversarial system is just that. And I've had attorneys get in my face. I had this one woman, she was like 4'10", 4'11", and we were arguing. I was sitting down and she was standing up. We were kind of the same height. And she had this big, we had court, and we were in a room in a courthouse waiting for our trial to start. And she had this big folder, and she was saying that I didn't give her some documents. And I told her I'd given it to her. You need to just look in there. And she had this big folder with like 600 pages. And she lifted the folder over her head and threw the folder at me. And it hit my chest. And all like 600 pages just splashed all over me. And my client was sitting right there. You know, I have had knockdown, drag out fights in court with friends who are also attorneys. with judges, screaming matches, shouting matches with judges. So, it's true that in these last 2 or 3 weeks, my channel has kind of turned, and it's been a benefit because I've gotten a lot of new subscribers, but negativity has also come in. I had very little negativity before I entered into this Charlemagne and Kwame situation. And it's really, even with the Kwame stuff, it wasn't that negative. And the Charlemagne stuff, when it really got negative is when, Tommy Sotomayor got on the scene. That's when my channel started to take, started to get a lot of people who were against Tommy and they were mad that I had him on, and a lot of people who were for Tommy and they were mad at the way that I treated him. And so like both sides were terrible. And I would look at my chats afterwards, or the comments, and just it's toxic. Now, I don't mind it, to be honest, because I've been doing this for 20 years, having people say things about me, having people test me, try my patience. My skin is super, super thick. But that is something that I think if you're going to be on YouTube and you're going to grow, you're definitely going to need. I feel like there are 2 ways to grow on YouTube. You can either grow like Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels has exploded, but exploded kind of doesn't capture the whole picture because he started when? In 2016, 2017? And it's been a gradual ramp up. And you can kind of compare that or contrast that with Kwame Brown, who, fair enough, he's had his channel since 2013, but it's not like he was just putting in the work every day. He had an event that kind of blasted him. Now you can say that Kevin Samuels had an event too, but there was a much more longer run up with Kevin Samuels. And either way, but especially with the Kwame way of just, having these big jumps, you're going to get a lot of negativity. And I think Kwame's actually, because he's got that moral high ground on this stuff. So I don't think he's faced a lot of negativity, but there are certain people in the space that when you start interacting with them, their negativity will wash over you. And that has happened to me with Tommy, and that's not a shot. That's how he is. I've had him on my show twice. And when he comes on my show, he reads the chats and he gets super upset about them. And I told him the last time, he was telling me it. And I said, Tommy, before you came on this show, these 2 times, my chats were clean. Now I don't even recognize them. I don't even recognize them. Right. But now that people are talking bad about me, and I've grown a little bit, and once you grow, you start getting visibility and people start, so I've been in a few dramas, to be honest. And there are people who talk bad about me and people who make videos about me, but I don't mind. People who use my content to talk bad about me, I don't flag them at all. Anybody who wants to use my content, please do, whether you talk good or bad. So these have definitely been some growing pains, some learning, on the job learning, let's say, things that Meet Kevin chorus, let's say, didn't teach me.
But yeah, the whole thick skin thing I think is coming in handy. And shout out to Dr. Thunder. Shout out to Dr. Thunder for the $5 super chat. Dr. Thunder, the honorable chat whip in here. And Gail Lockett definitely just got the wrench. Dr. Thunder advocated for Gil Lockett, and he got his way. And shout out to the Steel Curtain. Thank you very much for another $5 super chat. Thank you, brothers, for bringing the cerebral approach to these YouTube streets.
Yeah,
this
shout out to Steel
is
Curtain.
much
Oh,
needed.
sorry. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, shout out to Steel Curtain and Gail. They're really, I view them as if I'll be honest, probably the 2 most important people. I don't want to say that because then you start, what about me, right? But they are absolutely 2 hugely important people to my channel.
And O'Shea does he calls it the Negro Manosphere Awards every year, and he gives awards to moderators as well. I think this guy. I think. And people get nominated, before the time comes. You got to make sure that your crew nominates Gail when it approaches, and maybe she'll win. I think that she's got a good shot of winning.
Listen, let me tell you about Gail. I was super disappointed. I saw Gail in my chat when I started YouTube, and I was like, "Who is this woman?" And she was always like shouting me out and myself. And I had no moderators. I didn't even know what a moderator was. And I would see my chat, and she was bigging me up so great in my own chat. So I found out how to make a moderator, and I made her a moderator. And I was telling my friend at the time, I was like, man, I got a moderator. You're never going to believe this. I got this moderator. She's super awesome. And then once I started getting into the YouTube space, like I thought I found the diamond in the rough. Gail's a moderator for everybody.
You're like, oh, damn.
Right? I thought I found something special. For the longest time, I refused to get, I thought it was me and Gail. I thought it was almost like we were in a relationship. I didn't want any other moderator. It was just, I had one, and it was Gail. And I don't think I ever had a stream where she didn't show up, or a video or premiere. But even if she did, I was like, I'm not making any other moderators. It's just me and Gail.
And loyal and faithful.
Yes. Well, on my part, right? Yeah. And then I come to find out, Gail is in these streets, right? That's a joke, Gail. That's a joke.
Oh man!
Also, and then someone told me as I started getting bigger that it was actually unfair to Gail to have her as the only moderator because there was so much work. So then I said fine, and I started making other moderators. But yeah, Gail is absolutely. I mean, in my book, she's number one. I don't even know who could be number two, but to me, she's number one.
All right, you heard it here first. Okay, she's number one, and I'm saying that we got to make her win in the next. I don't know if they get prizes or anything like that, or if they get shipped or a T-shirt or something like that. But I talked to O'Shea about that. But we got to nominate her for the next Negro Manosphere Award show coming up in about 8 months, I believe. So shout out to
yes.
Yeah, shout out to, and he puts out before, about a couple of months before, he kind of puts out the whole nominate people here, that kind of a thing. So, and it's a decent show. It's getting better and better. Like, him and Solo TV84 did it the last time. So shout out to Doug. You should
absolutely get the intellectual of the YouTube sphere. I mean, you've got that on lock. You got it on lock.
Yeah, but I've barely even been here a year, so I'll start. I like I'm gonna get a what is it? They call it a PAC, right? Or is it a political action committee, whatever. I'm gonna organize all that.
Yeah,
pull some strings behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Jared
for you.
And shout out to Snuggles in the house. Thank you very much, Jared. And thank you very much to also, who else am I missing here? I see here the DK Tawan says, I admire your enthusiasm and go-getter spirit. Very inspiring. Great show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the lead attorney for showing up and having this rather candid conversation with us so far, and sharing with us his insights. So someone asked a question which I think we'll kind of pivot to, about that thick skin thing. Someone I saw in the chat, I believe his name is Nazarene Beats. But shout out to Red Sings the Blues. I believe you've also been on his channel as well. He's got a good podcast. He's got a good voice, a good mic, and a good podcast. You guys should go and subscribe. What else could you want, right? As Absolutely. I always say about Red Sings the Blues. Says donation to both of you. Gotta get you on the podcast again, right? So he's asking, and going to have a banger of a panel. I'll update you guys. Shout out to. So let me ask you this, okay? You mentioned the whole thick skin in relation to the law. Also, when I asked you about whether or not you were the planner type or just jump in, you said that, since I was 2 years old or something. So let's go back, if you will, to give us a brief background, how, where and how, perhaps early role models in terms of how to be and how not to be. And then if you could weave into the why law aspect, and then we'll get to the thick skin thing, because someone is asking how you develop thick skin. I have my modes and my ways. I can get into that. But I want to ask you to kind of give us a little bit of the background as far as how you came up, and then why law, and then we'll get into how law helps develop the thick skin stuff.
Absolutely. So when I came up, when I was a child, I'm from Atlanta. I was born in Decatur.
Hmm.
Born and raised in Decatur. And it was just me, my mom, and my grandma. I never really met my dad. I think I saw him maybe like 3 or 4 times when I was, maybe the last time I was like 6 years old or something like that. So he's never really been a presence in my life. I actually found out, I think maybe he died like in the 2000s or something. But I don't have any ill will. I don't really know what happened between him and my mom. My mom never talked bad about him. So,
That's good. That's
yeah. So I have this image in my head that, he's just a regular guy. And it was me and my mom and my grandma. So it was a huge support system really all the support that I needed. And I went to UGA, a double dog. If there are any dogs in the house, I went there for undergrad and law school. There are a lot of people who have these great reasons as to why they ended up in law school. Since age of 6, I wanted to fight police brutality, or, in age 8, my mother got in a car accident and she lost her leg and she got screwed over by the insurance company. So I decided to go to law school and take it to those insurance companies. Everybody's got these battles, right? Even Kim Kardashian, I think. People used to talk bad about her, and I guess there were some reasons, but then all of a sudden she started getting free innocent men off death row, right? And she's getting all these innocent men off death row. So then she decides that she kind of wants to take up law too. So those are really passionate reasons. It didn't really work for me that way. I'm a guy who likes to take the path of least resistance, right? And so when I got into college, they told me that I had to take calculus in freshman year. And I said, well, okay, give me the calculus. And say, well, before you take calculus, you have to take pre-cal because you didn't take it in high school. I said, okay, well, give me the pre-cal. So I took pre-cal that semester, and it was killing me. And I really buckled down and I got a D in it. And I said, hey, man, I passed. So give me the calculus. And they were like, no, you need a C or above. I was a business major. And they said, for your major, you need a C or above. And I was like, okay, tell me a major where I don't have to take any math. And they said, well, you can take English. So I switched my major to English immediately. When I switched my major to English, not only did I love it, but it was super easy. I never studied, got good grades, right? Because it's English. I speak English. So I was like, oh man, I've skated like my whole university career, super easy, had a lot of fun, never studied. Well, turns out that after college, you need to get a job. And my advisor was like, okay, do you want to teach high school? I was like, I don't even like kids. What are you talking about teaching high school? And she's like, well, you got an English degree. So you either got to teach high school or you got to go and get your, PhD if you want to teach college. I was like, I don't want to teach anybody. And she said, well, I don't know what you're going to do because you can't do anything with the English degree. And so I started freaking out. Because I had, I was in it good, getting all these good grades and not studying and living life as a college student, but college runs out. And so I was like, well, what can I do? And she was like, listen, a lot of people who have English degrees, if they don't want to teach, you really only got one other option. I mean, you can graduate and start working at the Macy's watch counter or something. You can just try to get a regular job, or you can go to law school. So I said, okay, what do I got to do to go to law school? She said, you got to take the LSAT. I was like, what is that? So she explained it all to me, and I took the LSAT, and I did pretty well. And I got a free ride, which was, UGA is just awesome anyway, right? But I was worried. So I applied to a lot of law schools, and I got into all the law schools. I got into a top 10 law school, but I couldn't afford it because I'm from Decatur, right? And so I decided to go to UGA. I had been there in undergrad, loved it. I had roots there, and they were giving me a free ride. So I went there, and I enjoyed that. It was tough, but I enjoyed it, and made a lot of friends there, and staying in Georgia. And so I graduated and started working in Atlanta. And time has gone by. You know, I've done some criminal law, I've done some civil law, I've done some immigration, but I always get called back to divorce law. And a lot of my friends and colleagues, they're like, you know, lead attorney, I don't know how you stay in divorce law. Divorce law is very draining emotionally because people are crying all the time and people are mad all the time. People are good people are, you see them at their worst. And not only do they treat their spouses bad, but because of the situation they're in, they treat you bad. I don't know if maybe nurses can understand that. You know, you can be a nurse and you can be attending a patient, and maybe that patient is, you know, a fine person, but when they're laid up in the hospital in pain, they don't treat you very well. And that is the same thing with divorce attorneys. And there are other jobs. Let's say I'm your IT guy, Ike, and you got something wrong with your computer system. You call me, I come in and I fix it, and you want to give me a hug. You know, you pay me and you're super nice. You're like, thank you so much, lead computer tech. And I say, no problem, and I leave. Divorce is not like that.
Is that where the thick skin aspect comes in more, or is the thick skin more in just any kind of argumentation, or is this a different kind of emotional control that the divorce takes? And how did you, have you always had that attribute? How did you develop it, and so on and so forth? Right?
Yeah, I'm a sensitive guy. I really am. You know, Tommy Sotomayor is going around telling everybody I'm gay or something like that. I'm not gay, but I am just by nature a more sensitive guy. And I think that plays into divorce, because in divorce, people need a lot of empathy. They need empathy in what they're going through. But the thick skin is something that you learn. I don't think that I could have taken this criticism that I'm getting now so well at 26, to be honest. But now at 44, going through what I've gone through in these trenches, there is nothing you can say to me.
There's a person that asked this question. I know, I happen to know that he's, because he just finished his undergrad, and he's a smart kid, so he's probably younger, right? So definitely in his 20s. So you're giving the answer of it's experience. In other words, you were exposed to the arrows and you developed the tough skin.
Yeah, it's almost literally like a callus. Like, you cannot develop a callus in a day. And if you can see, like, if you work out, you can see calluses on your hands, but you can be emotionally calloused. And if you could look inside me and see the emotional callus, you would be scared. You would be scared. But that's because, you know, I don't know if you've seen, Ike, that picture of that slave sitting on a stool with his back turned, and you see all the horrific, and it's the welts, so the scars are so thick, right? And you look at that and you're like, man, what did this dude go through? And if you could look at a 20-year attorney's internal battles, you'll be like, being an attorney is not healthy at all. It's not. And, you know, we have a much higher divorce rate, suicide rate than the general public, especially divorce rate. It's super hard for attorneys to keep their relationships together, not just divorce attorneys, but any attorney. You're fighting all the time, and you bring it home. And well, here's another thing too. Law school, it trains you to think in a certain way. A lot of people don't understand what the purpose of law school is. People think that in law school you learn the law, and it's just, it's not true. You learn how to learn the law, but what you really learn how to do is think. You learn how to critically think, logically think, and so you are trained in thinking, and it's 3 intensive years of that. And after you graduate, you are generally, if you're smart, you're a master thinker, critically thinking. And when you get into a relationship with someone, that's exactly right. When they say things. And it's very difficult to date an attorney, because anything out of your mouth, especially, and you just, you know, I mean, and it's not a fair fight because they're trained and you're not. But, you know, arguing with an attorney, you know, at 8 o'clock at night in your living room, you're not going to get far at all. And, you know, attorneys should be where anybody should be. You know, you don't really want to win the fight. You just want to you want to get to the truth, right? You want to resolve the
Mhm.
problem. But it's very easy if an attorney just wants to spend, it's very easy to knock people off, let's say.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and when you're fighting with these types of people, because attorneys, we're fighting with judges and we're fighting with other attorneys who are
Mhm.
just as trained as we are.
Mhm.
And when you're new, they're more trained.
Mhm.
So after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, now someone on YouTube says something to me and I'm like, yeah, it's like talking about, if you have a callus, it's just a breeze. You don't even feel
Mhm.
any pressure. So
And this is a useful attribute, right? It's not like, I mean, in other words, it helps in all other areas of life. Like it doesn't really, whether you're trying to climb and become a captain of industry or so on and so forth, whatever it may be, developing this kind of callus is important. Getting sieved through, and now, just as you mentioned, okay, now certain things just pass by and they just go through because now you're more fine grained because you've been sieved through already, and you're just flowing through these particular things, that it becomes a useful tool in negotiating and transacting in all kinds of human dealings going forward, right?
yes, you're exactly right. Mark Bell, he's a power lifter, and he has a saying that strength is never a weakness. And it's
Mhm.
true in the sense that a callus a lot of times will at least give you the appearance of being a lot stronger. There's this, I don't know if you remember Shaka Zulu, the movie. There was a part in Shaka Zulu where there was a new general and Shaka was a young, up and comer. And I think it was a new general. And the general had all these ways to improve the army. And one of the things was he wanted his Shaka's army, he wanted them to wear sandals. And Shaka he didn't want to wear the sandals
Mhm.
and he couldn't run in the sandals. And he was trying to be the first one in his group and they're running to attack and the sandals kept falling off. So he had to stop and get the sandals. And he just stopped wearing the sandals.
Mhm.
And the general or whatever, I'm sure I'm kind of getting this wrong, but the point is the same. The general he told the general straight up, he's like, I'm not wearing these sandals. They're getting, I can't fight in them. And the general's like, you need them to protect your feet. And Shaka was like, my feet are strong.
Mhm.
And there was a fire, and the general took like a log from the fire and threw it on the ground. And Shaka just stepped on it, right?
Mhm.
And it's because his feet were so calloused.
Mhm.
And that appears like strength, but what it really is, it's just hard, callous feet, right?
Yep.
And so if you have thick skin, a lot of times that looks like strength, or maybe it's equivalent to strength. Maybe it is a
Mhm.
type of strength.
Mhm.
But it absolutely helps. It is never bad. But you can lean on it too hard.
Mhm.
And I have absolutely seen attorneys who are 10 years in, 15 years, 20 years in, and they're callous just like me. But they lean on that callous so hard and they lose the human. They lose the human element. They lose the empathy. They just stop. They don't care. Right. And so you want to have a balance between being calloused, but also caring. Right. And
Mhm.
if you can combine those two in a balanced way, you will be awesome because humans, whenever, if you're a coder, let's just say you're in your basement coding or hacking, you don't really need that skill. But if you are in a place where you have to talk to people, where you have to interact with people, like a YouTube, for example, or like a courtroom in front of a jury, you absolutely need to be able to read people and be able to emotionally understand them. Now,
100%.
yes.
100%. And I
And
mean,
mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and even that, it maybe is not enough because you have psychopaths and you have these other people who they can read you and they're sensitive to you, but they still don't care.
Yeah.
And that's one thing where they're reading you, but to fleece you. They're reading you to scam you. So maybe it's three things. You need the callousness for the tough skin. You need the ability to read people, but you also actually need to care if you just don't want to be a tyrant. Right?
100%. That moral center, that thing which is more like a code, it's kind of outside of you. That needs
Yes.
to be there for sure. And let me read some super chats, and then I'm going to get to my quick answer, and because I've heard you before mention something about like meditation and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna give to the young man a little piece of my mind when it comes to developing thick skin. Shout out to G Man in the house. Says, Ike, Mr. $500, one of my favorite parts of the Kevin Samuels show. Yeah.
You are well known in these streets, Ike.
Yeah, it's I purchased them with $500 super chats.
Listen, I think that's one of the best ways to get anything you want. People, guys, we can be kind of stingy. And if you've got money, man, money is a means. Guys can hold on to, I've seen it, like representing men over all these years. Guys can hold on to money like it's the actual end goal, and it's absolutely not.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think in the conversation on your channel, I must have mentioned that whole thing about opening, giving, right? Which is the fear of giving is a demonstration of the mastery that item has over you, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you never get more of something that has mastered you, whether it be money or her number or anything. It's even written in the freaking Bible. I mean, it's like a law of nature in terms of like, to those who have more shall be given, and to those who do not have them, the little they do have will be taken away from them. That kind of a thing. It's not some kind of woo principle. It's rather very simple and basic when you think about it, especially when you give them the example of if you go up to a girl and you're desperate, you don't get it. If you have commission breath as a salesperson, they call it commission. If you're desperate, in other words,
commission breath. I've never heard that. That.
People smell this. People smell the commission breath on you. And like, get away from here. In other words, that idea of abundance is what you're trying to cultivate in yourself. People can read it, as you were talking about reading people earlier, and therefore more things come towards you. And also you remove a certain amount of fear, and now you can take more risks and so on and so forth. And also you increase a certain amount of flow, because you never quite know how it's going to come around back to you in terms of favors, those kinds of other things, right?
Absolutely.
So the steel curtain in the house, a question for the lead attorney, and since joining YouTube, have discussions amongst your legal colleagues, okay? If they know about, about you on YouTube become more interesting. I don't know if they know about your YouTube thing, but hold on to that question, and let me just mention my 2 cents on the developing a callus thing. So basically, I'm going to come in on the self-awareness side. So you mentioned the callus, which is just coming from experience, right? You just got to take the blows. There's no substitute for that aspect, okay? The system needs to go through, all complex systems need to be loaded, otherwise they deteriorate. We know about the ecosystem and your muscles and your brain cells and all that kind of stuff. There's no other way to go about doing it. So there's that side. And then this second side about self-awareness, that one, think about it. Where does the perturbation dwell, right? I always say, consider yourself to be made up of 3 things. In other words, your user interface is feelings in the body, image in the head, and talk in the head. So no matter what it is, whether you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, it is a feeling in your body. It's not in outer space or something. It's a tightness in your shoulder. It is, and then image in your head and talk in your head, for example, right?
Yes.
So the feeling of anger, what is it? There's your hair is raising up. There's the heat behind your ear. You start gripping the steering wheel. In other words, be able to master this user interface. Be able to observe yourself, right? And people who are my channel have heard me say this a billion times, blah, blah, blah. But Mr. Nazarene Beats, go to my playlist on meditation and listen to, I have like a whole bunch of videos on mastering your subjective consciousness. The first step of which is to understand what your subjective consciousness is, which is it is made up of feelings in the body, image in the head, and talk in the head. And the more you're able to observe that rather than be caught in it, the more you are able to withstand whatever kind of roller coaster ride, whether it be elation or depression or whatever it is, because no matter what attacks you, it's going to happen in the body, whether it's a sinking feeling in the stomach or it feels like someone ripped your heart out of your chest. You can develop the capacity to watch these things rather than be caught up in them. And that is one thing that I'll have to say about that. And then if you don't mind answering the question here about your YouTube, do your colleagues know about you on YouTube and you have those kinds of conversations?
Really only maybe about 2. Well, I got some friends who are colleagues, that's the thing, but really no one knows about it that I go up against. So no one who is really my opposing counsel. I was trying to incorporate this into my actual practice, and I was posting my videos on my Facebook channel. and I had a very good video, an excellent video on why the child support system was broken. Well, on my Facebook channel, on my Facebook, there are a lot of my friends, and some of them are attorneys, and a few are judges. And this judge jumps in, and he's talking about the child support system isn't broken. And I could tell by the way that he was talking. Number one, is super hypocritical because he's a judge and he knows that the child support system is broken. Number two, I could tell that by the way he was speaking that he didn't even watch the video. He just read the title. And based on the title, he wanted to virtue signal to all of his people that he was supporting child support, AKA supporting women. And that was important for him because judges, at least in here in Atlanta, they're elected officials. So he's trying to get some free advertisement based on my channel. And the fact that he's a judge, to me, it was disgusting. But after that, I shut my whole Facebook down. So there is a gap, and I really try to maintain this. I do consultations. And a lot of people, especially people from Georgia, they contact me and they have questions and things like that. And the consultations are always great. And when we do these consultations, after the consultations, many of them want to hire me. And I never accept any of them. I want a Chinese wall between this YouTube and my actual practice. So the steel curtains question is very poignant, but the vast majority of people do not know that I'm on YouTube. And I think if the word starts getting out, my mediation practice is going to suffer. I'm a mediator as well. My mediation practice is going to start to suffer, and my legal practice as well. There might be a time when I might have to transition fully onto YouTube, because one of the things about mediation is that you need to be impartial. And a lot of people can look at my videos and say that I am partial to men. Now, in my heart, I'm partial to men, but I've been doing mediations forever. So I can segregate that. But there might be appearance that I can't be.
That thing about your partiality, because you have alluded to things such as caring, such as empathy, such as sensitivity. And let me ask this question out, so you're an advocate, right? And an advocate in the adversarial system. And what ethic informs your advocacy? One dimension along which one can draw a demarcation would be, or would you consider yourself, and this is more of a psychological/philosophical question, right? Do you consider yourself to be more in your heart an advocate for the individual against the encroachments by the group, by the outside world, that kind of a thing? Or are you more of a shepherd, like an advocate for the group, right? An advocate for the flock against the would-be nefarious individuals out there? Now, obviously, like most things, it will be both. But in your soul, are you that guy that's like, the individual, I want to stand up for that guy? Or are you like, whoa, they're coming to attack the tribe? What would you say, what ethic informs your advocacy, would you say?
Yeah, I am a very individualistic person. Shout out to people. Shout out to all the military people. I always say that I'm too much of a wuss to join the military, and that's true. But another reason that I would not join the military is because it's too much of a group environment. And I am very individualistic, also sometimes known as selfish, fair enough. But if I represent you, I really represent you. And it's not really a group type of activity. It's very one-dimensional. And in
Did you
a
ever
lot
consider politics? I continue answering on, but is this kind of tied to, because if you're kind of looking at the individual, I'm looking at the man right in front of me. I'm not looking at him as a class of individuals that I may want to then go and represent politically at some point. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I would never consider politics. I would never think about becoming a judge. Like, I want to help individuals. And this is actually one of the hugest reasons that I love YouTube, because when you have my type of mindset, and really if you're just an attorney in general, you know, if I'm your attorney, Ike, and we're in trial on a random Thursday, I'm helping you, but I'm only helping you. I'm not helping you and the steel curtain at the same time. It's impossible. So with my type of mentality and my type of job, it doesn't scale. It doesn't scale at all. There are only so many clients any attorney can have. We have all, let me tell you a little secret about attorneys. Attorneys are like everybody else. We love money. And the thing about attorneys is there is no limit to the amount of clients that you can get. You know, you can easily have a month where more clients come through your door than you should take. And they don't teach you this in law school. You learn the hard way, especially when you're young. You know, between 0 and 5 years, you see all these clients coming in, which means you see all this money coming in, and they didn't tell you in law school to turn away clients. And so you start getting this huge workload, but you're still taking more. Now some phone calls aren't getting returned. Now some letters don't get sent out. Some stuff starts falling through the cracks because you have so much work, right? And the point is that being an attorney does not scale. There's only so much work that an attorney can do. Consequently, there's only so many lives an attorney can affect, because I have to affect you individually, and then the steel curtain individually, and then Nicer individually, and then Jessica. Shout out to Jessica. This YouTube thing has allowed me to speak to you, Jessica, Nicer, Dr. Thunder. I'm speaking to all of you guys at the same time. Guys, I cannot tell you what the paradigm shift that this represents for me, especially now as I'm getting older and I'm slowing down. I'm going to do a live stream about Nick Cannon. You know, Nick Cannon apparently he's having his 4th baby in 6 months, his 7th baby overall, right? And some people are thinking that this doesn't make sense. So everything makes sense. You just don't understand it, right? So some people are looking for the reason, and some people are saying maybe he's got an illness, maybe he's passing away and he wants to leave a legacy. And in a sense, you know, what do they say about an old person dying? That it's like a library burning down. And I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel like I've got a lot of information up here that, you know, I'm no Einstein or anything. The reason that I was able to get it all is because I've dedicated my whole life to it. You know, I tell people, anybody can sit in this chair here. The only requirement is to sit in this chair is not intelligence. It's just, you know, 4 years of college, 3 years of undergrad, and then 20 years of work experience. So if you're willing to dedicate about 30 years of your life to this, you can sit right next to me and we can start this thing. We can talk on YouTube. Most people are not willing to do it, right? 30 years is a long time. But now that I've got all this, I kind of see it, you know. I don't want to say that I'm going to die in 2 years or anything, but I'm trying to get this out. I am really trying to get this out. And I could never get this out representing you and Nicer and the Steel Curtain and Jessica X individually. So this YouTube platform has allowed me to scale and to help people out in a way that lawyers, this is foreign to us. This is absolutely foreign to us.
Yeah, it is foreign, and it is rather unique on YouTube. I'm sure there's some other attorney out there somewhere, but someone who's bringing it the way you're bringing it to this particular sector of YouTube, and the certain kind of truths that you put out there, and it's rather unique and it's working. And now I can see what it also does for you, because you're saying that you have, and this is a phase in life whereby you've gathered up all this stuff. It's almost like you can look at, you know, the sun rising and trying to ascend, and it's doing all kinds of stuff. And then it gets to a certain summit at some point, and then now it's no longer about all, you want to now give back. You know, there's a, you know, there are phases to this, to life here. So shout out to Gail Lockett, and shout out again to the super chatters. And let me make sure I'm not missing any of them, because I'm so engrossed in this rather engrossing conversation with the one and only, what did I call him again? The celebrated, elevated, magnificent, and magnanimous, and all that. Uh,
I love it. I love it.
the Lost Patriot saying, yeah, you didn't want to be a teacher, but I guess now it's your opportunity to be a teacher, given
It's
the game.
funny
as he
how
says.
that's come around, right? You're
Yep.
absolutely right.
Came full circle. And Gail is confessing that no other person can. All these other YouTubers, it's not you're my favorite.
What all these black women say. You're my favorite. Gail knows, man. She is my number one. I didn't know what moderators did or anything. If I could really have it, if it was possible, it would just be me and Gail. It would just, even if I had to put her on the payroll, it would just be me and Gail. But I'm at a phase now where it's hard even to read the super chats. In fact, I had to have a video. I had to have a talk with the family. My last video, like, what do you want to do with these super chats? Because they're getting to be too many. And so, this is so interesting. And you're right. I really feel it. Even though you can say being 44 isn't old, in a lot of ways that's true. But for an attorney, it's getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Jessica X on my panel a few live streams ago or whenever, and she said that she was in her mid-20s. I cannot imagine trying to do this in my mid-20s. As talking about the thick skin. And when I was in my mid-20s, I did not have thick skin. In fact, and it was worse because I actually cared about people. And when you care, man, when you care about people and you don't have thick skin, please. I have had people tell me some things in my comment. It's so weird, the YouTube algorithm, when they go and revise your comment section, they will delete comments that are perfectly fine. And they will leave comments up that will make your mouth drop, right? And I've read some of those. And man, no one can say anything in my comments that I haven't heard 1,000 times. So it's fine. Now, at 20, 24, 25, 26, I would have taken those a lot differently.
Got it.
So shout out to Jessica X. I don't know if the younger YouTubers, maybe because they've been on the internet longer, maybe they do have my skin. Listen, even though I have thicker skin, I can't even get on Twitter. Twitter is such a dumpster fire. Yeah. It's such a dumpster fire. 100%. I tried to sign up 5 minutes later. I'm like, I'm not doing Twitter at all. Because, there's thick skin, but sometimes it's just not worth it either. But maybe these young ones who have grown up with the internet, maybe they have a naturally thicker skin. That's interesting. I never
She's
thought
also
about
like a cutthroat, soulless Nigerian, Jessica X. I know the type, so I know these Nigerians. You got a few of them over there in Atlanta too, so I'm sure you know.
Is Jessica Nigerian? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Jessica's Nigerian. She's out here fooling you guys, thinking she's some kind of
Yeah. She's there. She's fooled the whole nation.
Exactly. No, she's a Nigerian right there underneath the
That is crazy. The aura. No, to us, it's her and Meghan Markle or whatever her name is. Shout out to Jessica X.
So, wait, let me read this a couple of super chats before I miss them. Yeah, you're talking about the super chats. Like, you're getting to the Kevin Samuels level now, where you're just gonna have to ignore them.
I can't do it, man. I can't do the family. I can't do it.
It's just gonna go by. Shout out to Soul Provider. You guys should go check out his channel as well. Soul Provider Speaks, the leader of the nerd pill, the blurred movement. I believe that's the black nerd movement. Go out there and check out his channel. And who else do we have here? Rebuilding Black Wall Street. Rebuilding Black Wall Street. Let me go.
Oh, shout out to John. That's my homeboy right there. Shout out to John.
That's your homeboy?
Yes, I'm going to do a live stream with him. And John, I'm going to email you. It might not be tonight because I'm going to have a long night, but it'll definitely be tomorrow. And hopefully we can get something going next week.
I see. Oh yeah, and we'll get you out on time. And I typically don't do panels on my show because
no, I've got a lot of time. Even if I have to push back, my thing is supposed to start at 10:30, but we can still keep going for a while. That's not a problem.
Cool. I know how these Negroes be, and
listen. You have priority with me. There are very few people that have a standing invitation to my channel. Very few people that have moved stuff around. It's you, and hopefully, I'm trying to get the Steel Curtain to make a channel. He won't do it, right? But people like you, people like Jessica X, people who I view as having so much value in this space. They're very few, right? Very few. But you are absolutely one of them.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I just expressed some elitist sentiments, and I think it's in line with the question, or even though it's a separate demarcation, because I asked you, what fuels your advocacy? Are you more of a like individual guy trying to stand up for that, perhaps lone wolf or underdog? But you answered you're an individual person. You're not out there advocating for classes. You tend not to parse the world that way. Probably not a Marxist, I would assume. Not that we're having a political conversation here. Just kind of
Right.
giving some philosophical demarcations. And then there is another kind of way in which you could kind of parse this out, in the sense that is, let's say we take the Kwame Brown situation, okay? There's something populist about it, right? Uh, in other words, populist versus the elitist, right? Kwame Brown versus the go along to get along crowd. Kwame Brown
Yes.
versus the Boys, that kind of a thing. So, generally speaking, I would assume that you're probably not a populist, or would you say that you are? Because it's slightly separate from the individual versus group thing. Would you say that you have populist sentiments, or where does what do you see? What do you think about elites and elitism? Because there is something to be said about for and against, right? Elites of all kinds, even the aristocracy or meritocracy. One could look at the Supreme Court, for example, and say, well, it definitely is not the most democratic institution. And not that that's anything against it. In other words, there is something to be said for even the aristocracy within a democratic framework, right? They're not necessarily elected. You put them up there, they literally wear robes and stuff like that, and they stay for life, right? So I know I'm throwing a bunch of stuff out there on the floor, but the idea is you can pick amongst this in this whole milieu here, the idea of populist versus elitism, where you have on the one hand you have the common man, on the other hand you have the idea of aristocracy or meritocracy or the elites. And you can use the Kwame Brown incident to even kind of as a way of looking at the whole thing. Where yeah, go ahead. What are your comments on that whole pile of stuff I
Yeah.
just threw out?
Let me talk about that, but let me take one step back because you mentioned me being individualistic and things like that, and I certainly am. I certainly am. But let me tell you this, YouTube is changing me. And for example, I mentioned that I'm not a perfectionist in anything, and
Hmm.
this YouTube thing has kind of turned me into a little, it's given me, I'm not a perfectionist with it, but I'm way more perfectionist about YouTube than I am in any other aspect of my life. In my other aspects, I'm
Mm.
super cool, super chill. We're just going to do it, get it done. And this experience has been totally different. Well,
Mm. Mm.
in terms of me not advocating for a class, I never do that it's not how I see the world, and I never do it in my private life. On YouTube, however, I am all about the populist class. I'm all about helping men, right? Because I want to scale. It's very difficult to scale helping the elites. If just for statistically alone the elites are less, right? If you want to scale, the populist side is where it's at. If you want to reach the most people. Having said that, I love the populist class. Now, it sounds terrible to say that way. Maybe a better way to say it is meritocracy.
Mhm,
I
mhm, mhm.
love people who are elites. I am fascinated with them. And it almost doesn't matter what they are elite in. If you are the best soccer player in the world, if you bake the best muffins, but if you bake the best muffins in the world, I'm going to be fascinated with you.
Mhm.
Fascinated. And
What are the commonalities there? Yeah, let me. You mentioned in order to sit in your chair, right? Anybody could do it, right? That's the
yes.
kind of the every man kind of thing. However, then you bring in the meritocracy. You got to do this, and then 20 years, and obviously you got to do it well. You're not just saying sit there for 20 years, right? So, and then you say if you're the best baker, you're fascinated. Is it because there's certain commonalities that cut across all kinds of excellence that you know, because for me, perhaps I could answer the question in a certain way, and then that way that might give you some inkling as to the question I'm actually asking. For me, if you are at the cutting edge of any endeavor, there is a similarity in spirit in the sense that it's lonely there, number one, right? You are pushing against boundaries that no one else has ever pushed before, right? You may be, a tightrope walker that's doing some crazy tightrope, some kind of mountain climber, or you're the best mechanic, and you're building, or you're trying to go to the Mars, or you're the best baker, and you have this kind of new way of doing things. I find that fascinating, but there's something about the mind that is untethered from, shall we say, tradition, or there's no one else that has done a similar thing, in any particular endeavor that is similar across all fields. So why are you fascinated with that hypothetical best baker?
I think because that's an interesting question. I mean, I've always been fascinated by the elites. And number one is because I will never get there in anything. There's a beauty.
You're being humble now?
No. No, and I'm actually not being humble, because it's true that I am the lead attorney, but I'm not Obama. Let me tell you something about Obama that people don't know. Everybody's like, "Oh, Obama's smart." You have no idea. You have no idea how smart this man is. And let me tell you. Let me just attempt to tell you how smart this man is. This is something that you don't have to explain to anyone who sits in this chair, any attorney. But if you tell an attorney this, you only have to tell an attorney one thing. You just need to tell an attorney that Obama was the editor-in-chief of the Harvard Law Review. That's exactly right. Once you say that, the discussion is ended. All right? The discussion is ended. He might be the Elon Musk of the law. People don't understand how law school works, right? First, you have the schools. Okay? So you have, let's say, 500 schools. And where is UGA? I don't know where we are. Maybe we're number 30, right? Well, Harvard's number 1. Right? So just to get in there, you are elite. Just to get in. And we're not talking about Harvard University, the college. We're talking about the law school. Right? You could argue that it's the best law school in the world. So just to get in, you are already in with geniuses. And then, so you're in, and then there's this thing that people compete for. And it's called the Law Review. Now, there are different publications. Let's say there are 3 publications in law school. To get on any publication in Harvard is out. You can forget it. You're not going to get on any one. Out of the 3, there is one that stands on top, which is the Law Review. There are other publications. The number 1 publication is called the Law Review. So you are on Law Review, and then in Harvard, right? And then on top of that, there is the president of the Law Review, and he's called the editor-in-chief of Law Review. He's the editor-in-chief of the publication. Obama was the editor-in-chief of the Harvard Law Review. You ready? As a black man. I'm the leader. I'm sitting here in this chair. Like, you have no idea. If I'm the lead attorney, if you want to talk about elite, like you're like, no, you're just being a humble lead attorney. No. There's a lead attorney, and then there are elites. And Obama is an elite, right? And it's fascinating. And to get there, you certainly need the experience, you need the years, but you need so much more. You need a dedication, you need a passion that a lot of times has driven people crazy, right? So you need to learn how to moderate it, it's almost like a rage for excellence in this. To me, when you combine, no matter what it is, when you combine the effort, the years, the rage, the passion, when you combine it all up, to me, it translates into pure beauty. It's beautiful to me. There's nothing more beautiful to me than someone who is world class. When you see someone who is world class, they do things in a way that it has to be beautiful. Honestly, I mean, I don't want to get too dark. If this is something that we're not going to know about, but I'm absolutely sure you go on the dark web, there is an elite number one assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could see the way that man or woman, probably a man, if you could see the way that man works, are you going to tell me it's not beautiful, even though he's doing a horrific job?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I played chess.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually the chess club president at UGA. And I have seen what elites, I mean, you have international masters and then you have grandmasters. And grandmasters for a long time were at the top. But then there are 5, 10, 15 individuals on this planet that are called super grandmasters. And when you see what these men can do, it is beauty personified. I mean, they're doing things that you don't understand. So then they have to explain to you. And once they explain it to you, the beauty hits you. Because they're doing things that you yourself, you could never understand.
100%. 100%. It is, yeah, I think you answered the question beautifully. And you even took it to the extreme of, hey, even that assassin, there's something beautiful about a well-executed, pardon the pun, job, right? A well-executed
awesome,
job.
bro.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about it, regardless of whichever field it may be in. And Kevin Samuels is doing Men's Week this week and talking about, whipping the guys into shape again, which is always a beauty to watch. And we'll get to that because we've been kind of talking around what it takes. Okay, we've just been talking about we talked about advocacy and this and that, but we have not really talked about what it actually takes in a more poignant way. And we'll get to that probably to close up with in terms of, even though we talked about the thick skin, the callus building and so on and so forth, we talked about the Trojan horse vis-a-vis YouTube and how that is a good branding skill to have. But there's that hard work part, that kind of, stick-to-itiveness, grit, whatever they call it these days, in order to win. And it is absolutely your duty. There is no excuse. There is no sitting around talking about, anyways, let me calm down. Let me ask a question. When you brought up Obama, I started thinking, now I know you're not a constitutional law person, but I just wanted to ask, broadly speaking, if you will, what your view is of the American system of laws, the constitutional system, our system of negative rights, if you will, which, well, for the audience, basically speaking, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Negative rights basically mean, well, the rights they belong to you innately. They're given to you. You're by God, nature, part of your definition as a human being. And then negative rights just means the rights by definition are not given to you by the government. The government is just the rights there are to tell the government what not to do, right? You shall not create a state church. You shall not do this. You shall not do that, right? That kind of a thing. And the rule of law and these ideals that we have, equality under the law, which I understand are ideals and there is no utopia. So what do you think about both the construct and how close we are to living up to the ideal in your view?
I think we are super close, very, very close in terms of reality. But the closer we come to it, the more the flaws are magnified. And there are tons of flaws that are magnified. But, I lived in Mexico for a while. I lived in Mexico for 5 or 6 years off and on.
I see.
And Mexico has a system that is, in many ways, it mirrors ours in the sense that, meaning that it is the opposite. So take criminal law, for example. Like if you are accused of a crime, the state has to prove that you are guilty. So you sit in the chair in front of your jury and you're like, hey, I'm innocent, man. Let's see what the state says. In Mexico, it is the reverse. Can you imagine a whole country that says, no, if you are accused of a crime, you have the burden to show that you are innocent, right? And we're not doing any of this public trials. In fact, we're not doing any juries. We're going to have one guy in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Did he get some money in the case? Who knows? Right? So you sit down in this closed hearing. No one knows what's going on. Everybody knows, listen, if there's darkness, if there's closure, if there's no scrutiny, you know what's going on. From the jump, I mean, the system isn't even set up for justice.
Mm-hmm.
And the state comes in with a file and they say, okay, you robbed this bank. And they say, you say, well, no, I didn't. And I can prove it because of this and this and this. And the state was, well, the file says you did. That's their case. The written paperwork. The file says you robbed the bank. No, I was over here in this other street. You know, you can ask this, you can ask Jessica, you can ask Steel Curtain, you can ask Gail. Okay, listen, we'll ask Gail, we'll ask the Steel Curtain, we'll ask Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
But after we're asking, we're going to look at the file. And the file, if the file says that you robbed the bank, you robbed the bank. The conviction rate is like 99% because you cannot get out from under the file. Right? And so people complain a lot about the American justice system with good reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are travesties of justice occurring every single day. No one has seen it more than me.
Mm-hmm.
No one has been a part of it more than me. No one has benefited more than me, and no one has been on the losing end more than me. 20 years, you've been on both sides. Everybody's making mistakes out here. Judges making mistakes all the time. The law is screwed up. But when you compare it to other nations,
Mm-hmm.
how can we complain? That's the thing, right? We can complain if our observable universe is the United States. We could absolutely complain.
Yep.
The issue becomes including, for example, our neighbor Mexico into that observable universe. Once you start including other nations, you talk about the rule of right, the rule of law, Jesus. You know, El Salvador, Honduras, guys, you do not, if you never practiced immigration law or you've never lived in some of those countries, if you never lived, I guess, in the Congo or anything like that, you do not even comprehend what it means to live in a country with no rule of law. Your mind cannot comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like you taking a slave from 1820 and bringing the slave to 2021 and handing him a cell phone. He will not, there's nothing, he cannot comprehend this world.
Mm-hmm.
You taking, trying to live in these places where there's no rule of law. Somebody doesn't like you. They can put one in your head. You're in the gutter. Who are you calling? No one.
Mm-hmm.
What police? What judge? What court? There's nothing. When you go there for 6 months, or you go to Mexico for 6 months or 6 years, when you come back to the United States, you shut up.
That is exactly why I asked you the question. As you may know, I'm an immigrant myself, and born and raised in Nigeria, right? So,
where are you now? Are you in Nigeria now?
No, I'm in
United
Bay
States
Area. Yeah, I'm in the United States in the Bay Area.
Gotcha.
Right? So, but born and raised in Nigeria, came over here, lived in New York for a while, and then came to California, was in SoCal for a while, and then now in the Bay Area. The employees for my company are in Ethiopia and other parts of Africa and England, so on and so forth. So tend to move around a little bit, but based now in the United States. I'm an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that immigrants tend to have, advantage, if you will. I see somebody put that comment in there, the statement that, privilege is invisible to those whom, when you have it, when you're steeped in it, it's like that fish that doesn't know what water is, right? But there's the comparison between the rule of law. Just forget other aspects of the government. The fact, the American legal system, the constitutional, just the Constitution to begin with, okay? That Constitution is a great thing. There's some people who go around like, it's like, dude, compared to what? Right?
To what?
That is something people tend to forget. Compared to what? If you're comparing it to heaven, in your head, then sure, everything's going to fall short. And then I like the fact that when you said that when moving closer and closer to the target, the flaws get more and more evident, right?
Yes.
But you think we're pretty close. And I like that and that's why I asked you that question, just so that people can appreciate what actually is going on here. Because that whole thing about innocent until proven guilty, equality under the law, of course, there's still people who get away because of affluenza or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. That happens. But when you compare it with what human nature, with that unshackled human nature, Jesus Christ, man.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to, or some people might give a certain pushback to you in terms of the system and changing the system, because you say you advocate, or you lean towards advocating for men in certain ways and so on and so forth. Well, let me ask you this question then before we kind of broaden it out. What is the utility of the child support system in the sense that what is the intended goal, right? And similarly to, like, I asked you about the constitutional system, how close are we in terms of meeting that raison d'etre, if you will, the goal, the stated aim, and what would you change about it in order to better, to form a more perfect union, or whatever it may be, right? So What is the goal? Are we close? What would you change?
Yes, that's an excellent question. The goal of child support is, let's take a step back. When is there no child support? When there is a mother and a father and a child, and they're married. The mother and the father are married. So you have a husband and a wife, and you have a child, right? And that is the goal, to have a mother and a father and a child living together. That's why marriage is so privileged in this country. When there is a divorce, the mother goes one way and the father goes another way. So now you have split. Let's say both of them were working, so they were bringing two incomes into the household. Now they have split, so now each one only has one income. The goal is to maintain the child at the same standard of living as if the couple were still together.
Okay.
Right? Which is a crazy goal, because it does not reflect. Anytime humans try to do things that do not reflect reality, we're going down the wrong path. If you have a PhD and you think as a woman you're going to get some value out of that, if you say, oh, I'm going to dedicate the next 7 years of my life to get a PhD so that men can want me, you are going down the wrong path. If you are a YouTuber and you think, oh, I've got all of these stories in my head and all of these things that people are going to appreciate, and there is no demand for it in the marketplace, you are going down the wrong path, because what you are doing, it does not reflect reality. Reality is the mother of all things. And so when you base a system on two divorced people living together, you're starting off on the wrong foot, period. Now, having said that, in a lot of cases, the child support system, it works pretty well. You have a guy and a girl and they get divorced, and the guy has to pay $750 for one kid. The guy is employed. $750 is a little more than he wants to pay. $750 is a little less than the woman wants to receive. We can be honest.
How would you restate the goal then? Because I think you said, okay, the goal does not reflect reality. In other words, the goal to have the child continue to be maintained as though they were together. But, that goal no longer reflects reality because they're no longer together, and so on and so forth. But then you say that it works well sometimes in a way that more closely reflects reality, I presume. So if you were to restate the goal, right, of child support, like, it shouldn't be this way, how would you state it? How would you formulate it?
The goal really should be that, the child, you don't want to say that it's hard, right? You don't want to say that the father should only pay the minimum of what the 2-year-old needs, because 2-year-olds, they can live on chicken nuggets, and a lot of guys, chicken nuggets aren't very expensive. But you want here. Let me back up, because there's some things that I'm not telling you. There was a study done by, I think, a Harvard professor who analyzed this, and it was a very deep, comprehensive study that is almost getting no weight, right? But the study shows some economist at Harvard, and he showed that fathers are overpaying child support in general by a ridiculous amount because these people have been commissioned to formulate how child support is going to work. And the way that they do it is they assume that the child still lives with both parents. And based on that assumption, they assume other things that go along with it. And when the premise is wrong, everything else that comes after it by necessity is wrong. Now, the fact that you have a wrong premise doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome is going to be wrong. It's just, a higher probability. You and I see the world in a way that a computer doesn't see it. We don't see atoms and molecules, even though these things actually exist. So maybe our perception of reality isn't exactly what it is, but we're still able to function. If we could see things better, we would function better. But the way that we function now is satisfactory. Shout out to Raven. Raven is awesome. The way that we function is. Do you need me to take a second, by the way, to read the super chats? I don't want to hog up.
So
Yeah.
the last one was you can go ahead and read that one.
Oh, you want me to read it? Okay, we got
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Jared Bogarty. I hope I'm saying that right. Says the child support system is a symptom to a greater illness that needs to be addressed. I agree with this. Sorry, I was about to go off on that. But yeah, if you want to read a few more.
And I think this is the only other one that we're missing.
Oh, shout out to Neil Stewart, man. Says greetings to Ike and the leader. I feel so bad about Neil Stewart. Neil Stewart sent me 3 super chats, and he sent me a message. He said, lead attorney, you missed all 3.
Because
I always,
super chats.
I shout out the super chats. I'll never forget that, Neil. You have a special place in my heart, Neil. I am gunning for your super chats. I'm never gonna miss another one. I felt so terrible.
And let me go ahead and plug my channel on my channel for those of you whom are here from Team Lead Attorney, Team Advocacy, Team Kwame. Even go ahead and click the subscribe button. Like, subscribe, bell button, and all that stuff. Like, subscribe, bell button, all LBSA, I believe. Yeah, that's the algorithm. Go ahead and do that. And please go ahead, continue with your your description of how child support would work better. And also, you were going to perhaps respond to Mr. Bogarty. I believe that's the way it's pronounced.
Bogarty. Okay.
Being a symptom of a larger ill.
Yes. Here's the thing. Usually, child support is the default. Like there's in a divorce, there's going to be child support. I think that's wrong from the start. I think the default should be no child support. Now you say lead attorney, it doesn't sound fair. It sounds like women are going to get screwed. Well, women will get screwed under the present system, which assumes that the default is the woman has custody. We need to step back. We need to move the camera back one notch and examine custody, because it's really custody that determines the child support. The default in the vast majority of cases, whether it's on the books or whether it's just in reality, is that the woman is going to get primary physical custody of the kid. What does that mean? It means the kid is going to live with the mom and visit with the dad, which is atrocious. It is atrocious. How can it be that you have half of your DNA, half of your chromosomes into a child, yet you only get to see the child 20%? You only get to visit with your own child. That to me is a huge injustice from the start. 50-50 custody should be the default in every case. Now, does that mean that 50-50 custody should be applied in every case? No, that's where the word default comes, right? As a judge, Ike, if you and Jessica are married and you divorce and you come before me, I'm going to tell you, listen, Ike, listen, Jessica, you made this kid. So I'm starting out. I don't know anything about your case. The case has just started. In my head right now, Ike, you get the kid 50% of the time. Jessica, you get the kid 50% of the time. Now, this is how I'm coming. Now, Ike, if you want to propose to me why it shouldn't be 50%, I'll listen. Jessica, if you want to propose to me why it shouldn't be 50-50, I'll listen. But if I don't hear any compelling arguments on either side after both of you stop talking, it's going to be 50-50. And guess what? Since it's 50-50, Ike, when your kid is with you, you pay for the Chuck E. Cheese. You pay for the movies. You pay for the shoes or whatever. Jessica, when your kid is with you, same thing. You pay for the Chuck E. Cheese. You pay for the movies. You pay for the mall. If there are any big expenses, braces, glasses, health insurance, we can find a way to split that according to your means, right? You know, Ike, maybe your means are a little bit more than most people. So maybe you might have to take a bigger portion of the braces, fine. But in terms of just general child support, there's going to be none. So what I'm proposing is a total overhaul of the whole system, because we're not going to start off with mothers just naturally get child support. Let's figure out how much we're going to tax the dad. To me, that is a totally unfair system. To me, there needs to be 50-50. Now, Ike, you say, listen, I travel a lot. I'm a pilot. You know, one day I'm in Australia, the next day I'm in Switzerland. I can't have this child. Or you say, Ike, I'm a Navy SEAL. You know, 6 months out of the year, I got to go to Afghanistan. Fine. If you are saying because of the job that you have chosen that you don't want to make other arrangements, fine. I'm not going to force you to have 50-50 custody of this kid. Now child support comes in because you are opting out of the 50-50. Gotcha. And let's be honest, there are some women who don't want their kids, and there are some men who are like, listen, just give me every other weekend. Fine. If you tell the court that you want every other weekend, fine. Now child support comes in.
I see.
But,
That's pretty good now. And I'm sure, you know, so could you speculate as to how the landscape of marriages and divorces would change if this system were to be implemented? There's going to be some downstream, or shall we say lateral effects, right? Do you think people will treat divorces differently? 80, you know, whatever the number is, women tend to file for divorce more. And that goes over any country, right? I think the divorce rate in Nigeria is, I think it's like less than 1% or some crap.
That's crazy. I can't even comprehend that. That's like me bringing the slave to 2021. I can't comprehend that.
But it's I think we went in, you know, I had a whole show with Bernard about it, about, you know, just kind of looking at why that is the case, you know, for several reasons, cultural and also economic as well. But if you put it this, you know, because now we're affecting certain economic things, right?
Absolutely.
Can you speculate as to certain implied, you know, downstream effects, lateral effects within the marriage landscape / childbearing landscape / divorce landscape? Do you think anything will change in that regard?
Yes.
Okay.
Women would be less incentivized to file for divorce, and men would be more incentivized to file for divorce. I cannot tell you how many men. Listen, guys, there are more. I don't know what the manosphere feels like why women file for divorce more. A lot of times, it seems like the manosphere thinks that women file for divorce more because they're evil, or something like that, or they just want to get out. And there are so many reasons why that's not the case. Some of it is, but some of it's not. Men will stay in bad marriages just for the kids. Like, if you've got 2 of my kids and I know that I'm only going to visit with them, I'm going to stay in this marriage forever. You're going to have to file, right? And that number would be more equal if I know that I'm not going to get visitation with my kids. At least it's going to be fair. Men are going to step up to the plate more and file for this divorce. Similarly, women know that they're going to see their child less, because right now women are seeing their children after a divorce 75% of the time, 80% of the time. So they've got an incentive to get out. If they know that they're going to see their child less, they will be incentivized to stay in a marriage, just as the men are incentivized to stay in a marriage now. Right. And so men would file for more, and women would file less. Also, women would be less promiscuous, to be honest, because we are talking about child support as it relates to a married couple. But there is also child support when a man and a woman, create a child outside of a marriage. And if women know that they're going to get less money, then they're going to take less risk in getting pregnant. They're going to choose the man of their father better. If they're going to receive less, maybe there'll be less incentive for women to hunt men or put babies on men that are not theirs. It would change. There would be so many downstream effects, and almost all of them would negatively affect the woman, positively affect the man, and I believe positively affect the child.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, all these things that you mentioned, including also divorce laws that are different, are part of the reason why there's a 0.5 divorce rate in Nigeria, right? So it's about the divorce laws, and then and the child support laws, and all those other kinds of things. And it's because some people would think, oh my God, these Nigerian men just have women under lock and key. Someone like you don't know Nigerian women if you think that's what's going on. That's not what it is. There's a big difference in culture, and human beings operate under a set of incentives. Like, it's no, you put the incentives such, people are just going to do it. Like you said, it's not about good or evil. It's like incentives, right?
Absolutely.
So now let me bring up something rather interesting here. And we're winding down about so you're not a disinterested party when it comes to the law, right? You are an officer of the court. You get paid to operate within the system the way the system operates right now. So what do you say to those people who come up with the inevitable charge against you that why would you, yes, all this talk about advocacy is good, but why would you change the system when you quote unquote benefit from it as it is, right? Now, look, granted, okay, the notion of rational self-interest is well known to us. It's a kind of a bedrock of capitalism / liberal democracy. The whole notion that it is not out of the beneficence of the butcher or baker that you get your bread and your meat. The butcher doesn't wake up and go, oh my God, lead attorney needs meat today. No, the butcher is saying, I need to pay my bills. My kids need to eat. Hence, I'm going to make sure that there's good meat, well presented, for lead attorney to purchase at a decent price so I can make enough profit. So he's operating within his own rational self-interest. So all that granted, what do you have to say with people who make that kind of a statement as to, well, why would you want to change a system within which you exist and quote unquote benefit?
Yes, that charge has a faulty assumption. Mm-hmm. The assumption is that the way the system is now maximally benefits me.
Exactly.
And what that person does not understand is that lawyers are going to be benefited from whatever system it is. Exactly. Like, we are going to get our cut whatever the system is. If women get the children the majority of time, lawyers are going to get paid. If women get the children 50% of the time and men 50% of the time, lawyers are going to get paid the same. If men get the children 80% of the time, like the women, we're still going to get paid. Guys, you got to pay me either way, right? I mean, so it's not like, oh, I don't want to change the status quo because I'm getting it so good. That's the beauty of being a middleman. You got to come through me. Mm-hmm. Right. So that charge, it really doesn't make sense when you understand how the system is. I am, at least in terms of divorce law, there are parts of law where if you make a fundamental change, certain attorneys will be benefited. Let's say medical malpractice. Maybe you have a state where there's no cap on medical malpractice. So if I represent you and you're in an accident and the doctor messes up, I can take, $100 million from the doctor's insurance. But there are states that say, hey, for medical malpractice, the most you can get from any doctor is $250,000, and you got to get the rest from insurance. I don't like that $250,000 cap. I want no cap. So in that particular instance, from that system, I am benefited by the maintenance of the status quo. In the family law system, it's just not that way. It's just not that way, especially because I'm going to represent men sometimes and I'm going to represent women sometimes. I represent both. And so it's so mixed in together. You're going to have to see me either way. And women are going to see me and men are going to see me. So no matter what change there is in the environment, I am always going to benefit. The only way I'm not going to benefit is if they say there is no more divorce. Then I'm screwed. Then I need to find another job. I need to learn how to become a mechanic or something. But as long as there's divorce, as long as there's child custody battles, as long as there's alimony battles, as long as there's visitation battles, it doesn't matter what the law change is. You're still going to have to go through an attorney. Now, of course, you have the option to represent yourself, right? So I don't want to speak too broadly. Most people with money are not going to do that.
All right. So
did I answer your question? I don't know if I answered.
Oh no, yeah, 100%. 100%. You. I mean, I kind of knew it was kind of baked in there that, you know, obviously simply changing the system does not necessarily mean that you're gonna undercut yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one could even change the system in such a way that it could be good for, it can have a utilitarian good for the masses, if you will, and you get more money. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
So
usually with changes, you do see, I mean, we're going to make money either way. You would think, for example, that when the pandemic hit, right, everybody started losing their jobs, that lawyers would be negatively affected. It was the total opposite. Like we got so much because people were locked into their houses and spouses started fighting. So divorces went up. They skyrocketed. Husbands and men were losing their jobs, so they couldn't pay their child support from the other baby. So they all needed to hire us to lower their child support amounts. Like whatever change there is, usually, whether the economy is great or whether it's terrible, you gotta come see us.
So let's close this out with the question that I said I was gonna ask. We've been talking about the work, the ideas behind the work, what you have learned from doing the work, and so on and so forth, and interests of all kinds. However, there are many people whom want to know, well, how do I, and I think it's kind of exemplified by the question about thick skin, but people want to know, how do I stay on task? Okay. How are you able to do this? How are you able to get that 4-year and that 3-year post and then 20 years on that chair and execute, take those arrows, form the callus, come into YouTube, for example, bob, weave, dodge, pivot, and have this kind of success now here also on YouTube. Men out there are wondering, well, how does one carry this load? And it is worthwhile to carry a load, to quote Jordan Peterson, basically carry that cross up the hill, and responsibility gives meaning, right? That heavy load gives meaning to things, It is the grist in the mill, if you will. Now, if you were to just, give some general advice, this is a commencement speech, okay, that you're going to give them about how they got to go down there and take the hill and chop down the forest and so on and so forth, and the tools that will help them along the way. What would you say, lead attorney?
Ike, I want to tell, there's not time for me to tell you how I really feel about this, but I think you framed it right when you call it a commencement speech, because a commencement speech a lot of times isn't even about the truth. It's about motivation. Mm-hmm. It's about going down and taking the hill. It could be that the general goes and tells you, yeah, hypes you up and goes down and tells you to take that hill, when in the general's mind, the general knows that the hill cannot be taken. But they need you to go down there and die on that hill so that they have time to do other things. Mm-hmm. So I want to be truthful on your show. I don't just want to lie to people. Mm-hmm. There's motivation, but there are a lot of people who make a lot of money on motivation, but there's no real truth behind it. It's just rah, right? So I don't necessarily want to do that, although I do know our time is winding down. I will say, though, that, there's just really just showing up every day, Now, having low expectations, right? It's like if you're trying to get strong in the gym, don't expect to go into the gym every day and get a PR. Sometimes if you can just pull into the parking lot of the gym and just do basic work for that day and then go home, that's worth so much. A lot of this is related to compound interest, right? And the whole thing about compounding interest is consistency. It's just, 2 cents and then another 2 cents or 4 cents and then 8 cents and 16 cents and 32 cents, not missing that day, even though it's just 16 cents, not missing the 16 to 32, right? To the 64 cents. That is going to get you so far. And this is coming from a man who's getting older, right? And I've seen the benefits of not missing days, and I've seen the detriments of missing days or months. I've seen them both. I've been on both sides. I've done both. And that to me is it's humongous for where you're at. I don't really have I'm not really convinced that you can do a lot of things to improve your horsepower mentally. I'm not convinced you can get a lot smarter, and a lot of people are not going to agree with that. A lot of people are going to say that's negative, because what I'm really saying, if I'm being honest with you, is that you're capped in a certain way.
100%.
Now, if I say, Ike, you're capped physically, you'll never be a Michael Jordan, you'll never be a LeBron James, then people say, oh yeah, lead attorney's right. But if I say, hey, Ike, by the way, not only are you capped physically, but you're also capped mentally, people are like, no, the sky's the limit. And, Ike's already smart. Yeah, you're smart. We're all smart. Elon Musk is smart. He's capped. Right. And so if you want to work on something, fair enough, try to get as close to the cap as you can, but then you got to move on to other things. And when you can really move on, what you can actually really affect is the time. Just like we were saying, anybody can sit in this chair. There's nothing I can do to get, no matter how hard I try, there's nothing I could do to get to where Obama was as the editor-in-chief of Harvard Law. I'm capped, and my cap is way below that. I would never, from the day I was born, I could never get to that, no matter how hard I studied. This is my belief. Some people don't believe, that's fine. This is my belief. But you can still be successful. You can still be the lead attorney. Just because you're not Obama doesn't mean you have to be Pookie. And even though I'm capped, the 27, 30 years has allowed me to sit in this chair, which is something to me. And it's a function of time. And if you could put in the time, you get the experience, you get the callus, you get so many things that you're not going to be able to get any way else. So any commencement speech that I would give, which contained the whole truth, would underscore the value of time. And
and limitation. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And I'm even seeing this in my YouTube journey. There are things that I know now that I really would have benefited from 6 months ago, but there was no way for me to know it 6 months ago, because this past 6 months has just been a function of the time. Even if you would have told me some of the things 6 months ago, I still would have messed up. I just needed to go through it. So that's what I would say.
That is a very good one, because it all comes down to that time thing that you said. In other words, showing up, not sitting in the backyard drinking beer, right, and watching the time go by, pass you by, and being capped 100%. You need to understand your limitations, so that when you see yourself approaching that limitation, you know how to leverage other things. Maybe leverage your networks, leverage other people's time, and so on and so forth.
That's
and
beautiful. Yes.
Let's say you are, you get this particular skill, but then go further to be able to get the certification such that you can operate on your own independently. You may have a job as a carpenter, electrician, plumber, whatever it may be, but get the certification such that you can also do it yourself. Yes. Because that opens up versatility. Because there's something that happened in 2020 to 2021, just to give you an example, right? Because versatility, in other words, a stool that has more than 3 legs is redundant. Yes, it's not as efficient, but it lasts longer, right? So there's a trade-off between efficiency and versatility. And
Yes.
versatility tends to go with lasting longer. So if you're a stool and you have 8 legs, one could say 5 of those legs are useless. But guess what? You can lose 3, which tends to happen, like in terms of life will happen, right? Life will happen
Murphy's
to you.
Law, right? Yes.
So things will go wrong, but you will stay. You still be able to stay strong. So if we're an electrician prior to 2020, and 2 electricians both have jobs, right, in this big electrician firm doing commercial electrician work. One of them starts doing the stuff on the side. They get an extra truck. They get their cousin to help them. That kind of a thing. You, the one that's not doing anything, may think, why is that guy wasting time? This is I'm quite lean, mean, efficient machine. I'm rising up in this company, blah, blah, blah. Guess what happens in 2020? Commercial electrician work goes down. Residential electrician work, which this guy is doing on the side,
Yes.
right, goes up. Everyone is home now. Everyone is setting up this and that and their solar systems and all kinds of things people are doing now. This is a real fact. Electrician work in terms of residential went up and commercial went down for reasons which we all know, right? And guess what now happens? This person who had the extra legs on his tool that was actually less efficient, okay, can last longer. It's just that
Absolutely.
simple. In life, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. So make sure that you're more versatile, and by constantly expanding the envelope, going into the uncomfortable spaces, getting more skills than you may think is necessary, because you don't know what is necessary, because otherwise you will be God, right? You don't know what's happening in the future, so on and so forth. But I think that is a good thing there. You mentioned limitation and then time. Know your limitations so that you can leverage and sidestep and so on and so forth, and then put in the time. If we take Obsidian, for example, Obsidian, I believe the past few days or a week ago, I haven't checked the numbers now, but Obsidian, the Obsidian Media Network?
A little bit. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not really versed in it, but a little bit.
Okay, so he's out here in one of the founding 3, O'Shea, Obsidian, and I forget who the third person was.
It's
Plus
a solo
Solo TV.
guy, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So Obsidian has a book, the Book of Obsidian. Hold on one second. I think I have it right here. Okay, the Book of Obsidian. Okay.
Awesome.
So Obsidian was a book collar guy. Okay, but he wrote a 500-page book, talking about
Wow.
some red pill stuff and this and that and the other. Now, when he wrote this book, he could not have known that someday he was going to be Amazon #1 seller in his category, which he hit like a couple of weeks ago. Why?
Really?
Because Kevin Samuels put this book in front. Now, by the time Old Man, as they call him, was writing this book, he probably had more subscribers than Kevin. In other words, he could not have known, he could not have planned that, oh, you know what? I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write this book. Okay, it's going to take a year or whatever, however long it took. And you know what's going to happen in 2021? This guy, my friend, Kevin Samuels, is going to blow up. And then he's going to put me up. And then I'm going to be on Amazon #1, which means, selling at least 3,500 books per day, which is good stuff. If you multiply it by, what is it, like $40?
Yes.
He could not have known any of that. But he just sat and put in the time and he wrote the book. And then a set of circumstances will happen, and then boom. Like, he could not have even dreamt of this. You know what I mean? It's like, what just happened? My buddy is going to 1 million subscribers, put my book in one of his broadcasts. Now I'm #1. Just a blue collar guy from Philadelphia wrote a book.
Wow.
This is the idea. Always stretch yourself out. Do things, because you never quite know when the set of circumstances out there in the world you're gonna be able to hitch your wagon to some star that is passing by, if you will. So with that, I would like to give you the last word, the lead attorney. This has been very great. You've been very gracious with your time, and I hopefully you were able to pass the time with ease.
Oh, yes.
while you were here. And let me give you the last word on that. Yeah, again, the distinguished, honorable, venerable, acclaimed, celebrated lead attorney in the house. You have the last word.
Yes. Well, I just want to thank you. I just want to use this time to thank you and to let you know that you have a space here in YouTube that is uncontested, talking about elites. You are the man. And I really appreciate you having me on your platform. You have a standing invitation to my platform. You might be one of the very few. In my head, really, you're the only one right now. But if there's anybody else, maybe I'll think about it. But certainly you have a standing invitation to come on whenever you want, because I value, don't take this the wrong way, but I value the elites so much. And I love having conversations with you, and they're always profound, and I always learn from you. And I want my channel to teach other people, but I'm also selfish in a way, and I want to learn myself. And I learn things from my commenters, I learn things from my subscribers, but I want to learn things from the people that I interview too. So as of right now, you might be the only person that has a standing invitation to come on whenever you want. So I just appreciate you having me on, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, it's definitely an honor, sir. I will take you up on that, and I will try not to overuse it.
That would be impossible.
All right, sir. All right. So are you going live? Gonna go live, or?
Yeah, right now, whenever we're done.
All right, you guys go over there to the Lead Attorneys channel. We're gonna go ahead and close out, and I will be back here with the old man, with Obsidian, to talk about many things. Maybe we'll talk about the book. Maybe we'll talk about other things. But on Saturday, I'll be here with Obsidian of the Obsidian Media Network. You guys know him over here in the Manosphere as Old Man, and we are gone.
Thank you.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.